Well, each week we like to break down stories from the three levels of government with CTV's political commentator Scott Reid, and he joins us once again live. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning. You're lucky to have me because National Pie Day I usually celebrate by myself in the kitchen with 3 forks, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty much where to go. All right, but let's start with this, talking politics rather than pie. The federal level, Liberal cabinet retreat taking place now. Several announcements out of Montreal this week, but I think the one that's catching a lot of attention, particularly in the GTA, is the idea about auto thefts. This summit they had to try to stop the bleeding of cars just leaving this country.
Well, it's a personal priority for me since I've been a 3-time victim of auto theft. 3 times.
Wow.
My neighbor had his 2 vehicles stolen from his driveway the same night. So, you know, these are middle class problems. I think there's 2 things interesting about it. On the one hand, you see the federal government taking a different tone, saying we have got to actually get in sync and be talking about the things that are preoccupying people. And if you're talking about, you know, downtown Toronto, if you're talking about the GTA, this is a reality for people, right? They are experiencing it. So in that sense, it seems like it's in the swim. On the other hand, a national summit, like, I do think a lot of people kind of go, and what the hell does that do?
Yeah,
you know, like, will the
Yeah.
thieves come? Can we trick them and say, all right, now we close the doors and arrest them all?
Here. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see, but I guess the political point I would make is that it does mark a slight departure on the part of the federal government where they are saying, all right, we've actually got to take advantage of platforms like a cabinet retreat when the media are gathered around to talk about things that seem like they resonate with people. So marks for that. Whether or not people buy that a national summit is actually going to do something as opposed to saying to the police, here is a squillion more dollars so that you can actually hire more people to go out and catch those guys. Well, that remains to be seen.
Right.
So a little bit of political posturing, you think?
Well, you know, you have to see what comes out of it. But, you know, there's one thing I hate more than anything else when I worked in government or when I observe government, and that's when people start these big meetings by saying, we are using the convening power of government to bring together the stakeholders, to talk through the issues, to form a frame. It's all the usual government jargon. So I'll be looking to see if they can cut through all that bunk and talk like real practical, what are the tools that are necessary? What would a timeline for success look like? What do the cops need that they don't have? What do the cities need that they don't have?
All right, okay, we'll see if that happens. In the meantime, at the provincial level, Premier Ford at the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, the ROMA conference, a lot of people are calling it, it's much easier. Rural Ontario, that is Ford's like bread and butter. He hits all the sweet spots there. The municipalities, though, indicating they want more provincial money. You know, Toronto gets a lot, but they want, what about this? Like,
no big shock there. Again, this is a little bit near and dear to my heart since I grew up in rural Eastern Ontario, so I'm like, you go. But I think what's interesting here is they're framing this issue, I think, smartly, and they're bouncing off of what's happening here in Toronto. So they're watching the Premier say, you know what, we're going to upload some of these major services. We're going to try to offload costs on you. So you see him and Chow kissing, high-fiving, playing beach volleyball together. They're the best of pals. I think these smaller town mayors and smaller municipal leaders are saying, well, wait a second. You have basically entertained a restructuring of relationships and responsibilities with the City of Toronto. You need to do that for the rest of us because we're still bearing a whack of costs and services from past, you know, torrents of downloading, and it's not fair. It's mismatched what we can afford to here in this township, here in this county. And so I think he's getting a lot of pressure. And in an interesting way for us and our viewers here in Toronto, this is the consequence of action in Toronto, where other municipalities are saying, dude,
hold on.
Us over here too, we're next. And it'll be interesting to see how the Premier navigates it for the exact reason you say, Nick. He doesn't need to be worried about those votes. He gets those votes. He gets those ridings. So does he shrug his shoulders, say nice things, and walk on by? Or does he feel like, nope, I got to give these folks what they're looking for? It's going to be an interesting debate to watch.
Definitely will.
Okay, and turning to the City of Toronto and the whole budget process, you know, right now without that $250 million commitment from the feds for refugees and asylum seekers, Chow and Freeland met over the weekend. They posted a photo. What did you make of that? I
thought that was super interesting, and it was striking, the tone contrast with federal Liberal MPs marching on to CP24, going on to the radio saying, my God, Chow's treating us unfairly. She's not being nice. She's not recognizing all the lovely things we've done. I sent her a Christmas present. You know, like, she just, these guys are all griping and whining, and Freeland's trying to strike a different tone, maybe suggesting that there might be some relief coming. We'll have to see. But I thought that was worth noting. But, you know, look, forget all the political drama. This ball bounces back into Chow's court on February 1st. Like, she's going to have to deliver what we call the mayor's budget.
Right.
So we've talked about a 10.5% tax increase, but she says, well, that's not me. That's just what city officials, you know, with their green visors and their abacus have decided we need to do. Now I'll bring forward my personal budget. So what's it going to be? Instead of 10.5, she knock it down to 8.5? Does she put a levy on top of that with respect to these federal services that she's blaming? Will she be successful in shedding ownership of all this? My belief is if those federal MPs can find the discipline to shut up and stay out of the fight, the mayor's going to have a tough time saying, I'm introducing this budget with these tax increases, but please blame everybody else. These tax increases are not my fault. It's going to be a very interesting political exercise to watch.
It really will indeed. We'll see it unfold in 8 days' time. February 1st is when that budget is due.
Yep.
Appreciate setting
Nice
this up.
field.
Yeah.
All right,
okay,
guys.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you,
Have a great
Scott.
day.
Appreciate it.